Welcome back to our video series on proficiency scale development. This is the third video in our series. As with the last two video segments on proficiency scales, today you may learn new information. You may find facts that you need to unlearn. You may also be reminded of some things that you had forgotten. By now, you've watched part one and part two of this series and have learned why we use scales and how to write scales. In this segment, we are going to look at the difference between learning goals and activities as we finish writing our proficiency scales. When you see the pause symbol on a slide like you see here, you'll know to stop the video to take time for work or discussion. In this case, since some time has elapsed since you've worked on your scale, this is a great time to pause for a moment and reflect on the proficiency scale you created in the second segment. Just hit play when you are ready to continue. The effectiveness of using scales comes in the three R's: refer, recalibrate, and reflect. If we don't use these things, then the learning goals discussed in part one and the proficiency scales developed in part two lack usefulness. Take a look at this quote from The Art and Science of Teaching. It points out the importance of scales in that they provide direction about instructional targets or goals, and that's what we're going to focus on today. Learning goals are critical. However, the key is to make sure we distinguish between learning goals and activities so that our references and reflection are meaningful. Now comes the part where we find teachers easily confused, and understandably so: learning goals versus activities. So let's clarify a bit. With your team, discuss the difference between learning goals and activities. Pause the video if you need a minute for this conversation. Learning goals are a statement of what students will understand and or be able to do, and activities help students reach the learning goal. How close were your definitions? Think of it this way. We give our students learning goals and want to help them reach those goals. The way we do that then is through activities. Let's practice telling the difference between learning goals and activities. You'll determine if each statement is a learning goal or activity. Take a look at each statement that appears on the screen. Discuss with your group whether this statement describes an activity or learning goal. You can pause the video to allow for discussion. When you think you know whether each statement is a learning goal or activity, press play again to see if you were correct. Try it again with these. So what effect does it have on learners if we mix up learning goals and activities? Pause the video to talk about this question. Let's take a look at what happens when we as teachers aren't clear about learning goals. When students hear the objective is, do they think I need to learn or I have to complete this by? Without clear learning goals, students likely think, what do I need to finish by the end of class? But with clear learning goals, students' thinking shifts to the learning that needs to occur. The bonus here is that students can see the big picture of a unit rather than a daily task. Despite knowing what a learning goal is, activities and goals are commonly mixed up. It might look like this, or this. You can use goals and activities to clarify what will be happening in class. In this case, the goal tells us what we want the students to know or understand or be able to do. This could be your we will statement. The activity, on the other hand, is what will students do to show that knowledge, and this could be your I will statement. In the last video segment, you created a proficiency scale using a template similar to this one. Pause the video now to make sure that what you included in each descriptor would qualify as a learning goal rather than an activity. Restart the video once you have done so. Now, take a look at the right side. There is a place for activities in this template. These are important for common planning and curriculum purposes. For these activities, consider your resources and materials available. On the left, you have your learning goals, which is what you want students to know or be able to do. And on the right, you have the tasks that will allow you to see that knowledge. Pause the video as you fill in the sample activities on the right side. Now, take a moment to look at these routines for integrating scales throughout a lesson. It's quite a lengthy list, so this may take some time. Feel free to pause the video. This brings us to the end of our Proficiency Scales video training. As you wrap up your time together today, take a moment to reflect on what you've learned over the course of these 3 video segments. With your team, discuss something you have learned today or throughout the videos, something that maybe you've had to unlearn or something that challenged your thinking, and something that affirmed what you do or already knew. As always, if you have any questions, please reach out to us here at Region 9.